One you read, one you sign. Oh, and there was an extra set.
Okay. Did Bob say you received it?
I didn't ask him to do that. He was waiting on it, so I'm assuming he did.
Are we good to go? Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Stefan.
At this time, I'd like to call the meeting of the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors to order. Randy, will you take roll, please?
Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Ayers.
Here.
Chairman Lyons.
Here. At this time, we'll have an invocation followed by the pledge. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless all those that are in attendance tonight, all the citizens of Rockbridge County. We ask that you give us the wisdom and strength to work harmoniously together as we proceed through this meeting. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. While the room will be open to the public, due to the size of the meeting room and social distancing requirements, no more than 30 attendees other than county staff will be allowed in the room at one time. For the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia Executive Order 72, persons who have been fully vaccinated for the COVID-19 virus are not required to wear a mask. And we anticipate additional restriction relaxation in July, and we may make adjustments for future meetings. We will hold citizen comments near the beginning of the meeting. We'll do our best to take citizen comments remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. You may join by telephone. You may dial in on one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press and hold the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are using your phone. At this time, are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I have a slight one regarding the settlement plan for Purdue Pharma.
Okay.
Would you like to handle that now, or would you like to bring it?
We will put that later in the meeting.
All right.
Do we have a second to approve that change? And a second? Any discussion? We'll Vote to approve the change. Mr. Lewis,
Oh, yes, sir. Aye, yes, sir.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. At this time, Mr. Bolster, you have a new employee to introduce to us?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I wanted to introduce Becky Hewells to you. She started serving as our accounting clerk on June 14th. She's a graduate of Virginia Tech. She's got a degree in accounting and information systems. She's got several years of experience working in accounting and office administration in the private sector. So we're happy to have her on board. She want to say a few words?
I appreciate the opportunity to work here. I'm really looking forward to growing and learning a lot more about the county.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll welcome citizens' comments. To make a comment, please follow these guidelines. Sign up to speak on the citizens' comment sign-up sheet. Once your name is called, address the board from the podium, beginning by clearly stating your name and magisterial district. Please do not expect the board to respond to questions or engage in a dialogue. If you have questions, please ensure that you have entered your contact information on the citizen comment sign-up sheet, and staff will do their best to respond to your question as soon as possible. Citizens are respectfully requested to keep comments brief, not to speak for more than 3 minutes. There is a timer located on the podium for your convenience. When the light turns from green to yellow, you have 30 seconds remaining. Once the timer sets off an alert, please return to your seat if attending in person, or simply end your comment if attending virtually. The same rules apply to those attending virtually. Once your name is called, please state your name, magisterial district, and contact information. Okay, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
No, sir.
All right. Do we have anyone electronically?
Do, but no one has their hand raised.
Okay. All right, then we will close the public comment section of the meeting and move on with the approval of the June 14, 2021 regular board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
I'd abstain due to my absence.
and the chair votes yes. Minutes are approved. County closeout for 2021. Appropriation resolution and payment of bills. Mr. Bolster.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, if you go to your board docs package, you'll see that we actually have no additional appropriations to close out the fiscal year. So you can see that the total bills for the second round of APs or accounts payables in June is $654,428.73. I've reviewed the bills list. I've got some notes if there's any questions on it. If there's no questions, the recommendation is to adopt the resolution as presented.
Okay, are there any questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Approval of payment of the final 2021 payroll.
As is consistent with our practice, as we close out the fiscal year, we do ask the board to authorize us to complete the final payroll for FY 2021.
You've heard the request. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second it.
And a second. Any discussion? Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. Appropriation of the 21-22 county budget. Mr. Bolster.
So in your package, you'll see the appropriations for the FY22 fiscal year that starts on July 1st. All the totals that you see in those 11 categories are consistent with the budget adoption from April 26th. So you can see the total general fund budget is $49,543,354. In addition, we have the construction project fund. And so there's a couple projects that were in the CIP for FY22. That fund particularly is budgeted at $311,140. And then the capital purchases fund has 4 line items, and that total fund is $416,198. And so those are all consistent with budget discussions over the last several months. So if there's any questions for me, I'll do my best to answer them.
Questions? Do you have a motion for the appropriation?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
And a second. All right, Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
yes,
Ms. Ayers.
yes,
And the chair votes yes. Appropriation of the 21-22 school division budget.
Right, so the only comment that I have on this one is located in the first part of the resolution where this information was provided by the school division, but it is consistent with what has been negotiated between the Board of Supervisors and the school board. You can see that of the 7 categories that are listed, the total appropriation for the school fund is $36,814,347. In addition, the school cafeteria fund is included, and you can see that budget is $1,113,357. That particular budget is a self-sustaining budget. So if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Any questions? We have a motion to approve the appropriation for the schools.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
A motion and second. Any questions? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
yes,
Mr. Day?
yes,
The chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a consideration of a resolution approving the Modine performance agreements. Mr. McDaniel, you have.
Yeah, I hereby abstain from all matters, discussions, or voting related to the board's consideration of performance agreement with Modine Manufacturing Company, and my disclosure statement required under section 2.2-3115F is on file with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Okay.
As you all know, Modine Manufacturing Company is expanding its operation in our region. It is converting its warehouse in Rockbridge County into a manufacturing facility. This is a $7 million investment, and it will average net 60 new jobs with an average salary of $47,117. In cooperation with the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, we secured the project with a $388,000 incentive package. The state will provide $194,000, of which the county will match $194,000. Included in your package is the performance agreement to facilitate the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund, as well as the performance agreement for the county match funding. The EDA will act as the fiscal agent. Ms. Huffman has reviewed both agreements. Modine will receive from the county a machinery and tools tax grant, a local job creation grant, a building permit fee grant, and a gas infrastructure grant totaling the $194,000 match to the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund. Typically, the EDA would approve this first. However, as you know, it came in last minute. Therefore, the EDA is going to now meet on July 8th at 2 p.m. to approve this agreement. I have spoke with all of them. They are well aware of that. So we're going to go through with the board approving in order to avoid delays with the project. So Ms. Huffman has provided a resolution in your package for your approval.
Okay.
Take any questions?
Questions?
No, I just like to just say that I appreciate the EDA's work on this as well. And I'm sorry the timing doesn't work out where they're able to approve it first, but we got to keep it moving along, which helps us all.
I did provide them all copies of it beforehand.
I know,
None of them
but I
had
just-
any comments.
It just bears saying, and sometimes it
Yeah.
feels like the cart's before the horse, but I know they've had a look at it, and I appreciate their work on it.
Okay. Hearing that, do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you. We'll continue our discussion on the cigarette tax.
Yes, the board's discussed this item several occasions since last fall. As you know, the Commonwealth provided the ability for counties to assess a cigarette tax of up to 40 cents per pack to equalize with cities and towns, which have been able to do it for years. On April 26th, a public hearing to take comment on the potential to implement the tax was held by the board. The ordinance that was included for consideration contemplated a 30-cent tax, per pack tax, effective January 1st, 2022. The board didn't take action at the time, but added that to the topic, added that topic to the May 24th meeting for additional discussion. On that date, the board did not or opted to further delay the discussion until this meeting, June 28th. To assess the direction neighboring localities may take. I've included an update in your board package on what other localities in our general area are doing. The only real change in the what I presented at the last time the board heard this, Augusta County is still considering a 30-cent tax. I did verify that today with their county administrator. To be implemented later this year, aligning with Stanton and Waynesboro's rate. However, they're in discussion with the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission on the potential to join a regional body in that area. So they've not taken action there. Lexington was considering the 30-cent tax, but delayed the decision until the Board of Supervisors makes a decision. And Buena Vista, at a 6-1, I believe, vote, voted against implementing a cigarette tax. Amherst County, of course, that one was kind of already over with. They adopted a 27-cent tax effective this July 1 in a few days. Allegheny Bath, Botetourt, and Rockingham still have no plans in place to consider at this time. Ms. Huffman has provided an updated copy of the previously advertised ordinance with updated dates. And the board's options are you can consider adopting the attached ordinance and direct staff to take steps to implement. You do not have to adopt the ordinance, or you can determine the table consideration at this time. I do want to let you know that staff does recommend that if the topic is tabled and then brought back at a later date for reconsideration, that a new public hearing be advertised and held due to the time passage. I asked Commissioner of Revenue, David Weitzel, if he would mind sitting in tonight, which he is here. Appreciate that. And with that is the sum of my report for the board. I'd be happy to take any questions that any of you might have.
Questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment.
Okay.
These types of opportunities to me fit into sort of the directive from the General Assembly saying this is where jurisdictions need to go to get revenues as they decrease the submission to us, and also add us new tasks and the quite trite term of unfunded mandates, which do keep coming. I think Rockbridge County's situation is unique, not necessarily to counties directly north and south of us on the interstate, but that we do have the opportunity to obtain, I think, the majority of the revenue that would come from implementing this from basically a transient tax. I mean, it would be folks from out of the area stopping along the interstates. Most notably, my understanding from truck stop retailers is that they sell a significant amount in cartons and cases, quantities, not just packs. So I feel possibly for our smaller retailers, but at the same time, for countywide benefit and to avoid putting further pressure on real estate and personal property taxes, I think we should implement. Is my speech.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, while I agree with Mr. Lewis on all accounts, the neighboring jurisdictions to my district are not implementing the tax. So for that sole reason, I don't want to put the retailers in my district at a disadvantage. So that's my feeling on it. And I'd prefer to table it till we see what goes on with the neighboring jurisdictions.
Okay.
Having said all that, I fully support and understand what you're saying, Mr. Lewis.
And I understand your angst there as well. I mean, I have it for the same thing, but yeah, again, I just think we're missing out if we don't.
Ms.
I would
Ayers?
also like, well, I would also like to say that it would provide Buena Vista quite the marketing tool to not only would they could very well drive a lot of business to Buena Vista with that. So I agree. I am not ready. I would like to see it tabled.
Okay. Mr. Day?
All right. Right now, I'd like to see us table it. Can we table it for 30 days or do we have to have another public hearing?
Ms. Huffman, if we bring it to a vote at the next meeting, would that require another public hearing?
Not necessarily. I think if you set it over to a date certain for further consideration, that will be within 90 days, I think, more or less, of the public hearing, and that should be adequate. If it's tabled out 6 months, 9 months, a year, then I would say, yes, you should do a new public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple more thoughts. Ms. Ayers, I don't mean to rebut, but I don't know. My feeling, again, just the long haul truckers, that I don't think they're going to end up over in Buena Vista off of 81 for that. But it's possible. But again, that's my, and the input that I've had, and I also did have, I forgot to say in my speech, I did have further input from the sort of coalition that sent us a letter before saying that they were a member of it, not the whole thing, but that they were more understanding of what it could accomplish, and that, probably not 30 cents, but something around 25 cents might be palatable and a smart move.
It's also my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Suter, but whatever route, if we decided to do something, it would take approximately 6 months to implement anyway, with us buying stamps and doing everything with that, right?
That is, I would say that would be about the minimum you'd want to set it out for the actual effective date, because there is, we do have to go through a procurement process. There are different stamp manufacturers. I think some of them are on state contracts, who could go that route, could do an RFP. But then there's the consideration that we have to give to Commissioner Revenue and the treasurer, who would be helping to manage this and getting those processes in place, and also for the in deference to the retailers, making sure that they've got time to get their get the stamp packages, and also the distributors. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. So I would say that it's a long way to answer your question. That yes, I would think 6 months would be a good minimum amount of time before you implement.
And current in our upcoming budget, we didn't have any revenues allotted to this tax, correct?
Correct. We did not.
I'm not sure what is a whole lot could change in 30 days or maybe none. It is something that I wouldn't mind discussing again. I'm just wondering if it shouldn't be something towards the end of the year or first part of 2022. Maybe localities around us have moved, and it's not going to affect our upcoming budget, but if we discuss it December, January, it could impact FY23 budget if we allot funds or revenues from that.
So is that a motion, Mr. McDaniel?
Let me just say one thing first. I think, as Ms. Huffman pointed out, we do have some more time, and I would suggest we use that before if we still don't have consensus. I certainly agree with Mr. McDaniel. But if we have another 30 days, I would want to use that just to see
Okay, so
what might transpire in that 30 days.
So is everybody good with bringing it back on July was it 28th?
26.
26th?
There is one thing that I skipped over in here. It is in your board report, but I just want to make sure the board understood that if the county making a decision on this does not necessarily translate to the towns could make their own decision. And they've had that opportunity for many, many years along with the cities. Just want to make sure you all understood that.
Mr. Chairman, the only other question I had was from Mr. Weitzel. With implementation of something like this, is it better for a start date to be July 1st or maybe January 1st as far as your office and the work that goes on different parts of the year?
I was going to say, I'll repeat your answer.
July 1st would be better as far as the workload normally in our office.
Okay.
We have a slower time from, well, at least a month from June to the 1st of July after real estate taxes are due. January 1st, everything starts new. So from then until the real estate deadline, that's our busiest time. But
With the 6-month lead up time, that's why I was wondering, January through June busier for you or July through December?
July through December would be the least busiest, of course.
Thank you.
So what I'm hearing is a consensus to look at this again at July 26th and make a decision on direction you want to go. Hearing no objection, then we'll move it forward.
Okay, I'll put it on the agenda.
All right. Thank you. All right, discussion of the county decal. As you know,
I think we're at 6 o'clock on the public.
Oh, we'll come back to that.
Please.
All right, it's 6 o'clock and we will resume the public hearing on Dynamic Energy Solutions, the application for a special exemption permit for the solar project in the agricultural and general uses A2 zoning district.
Yes, sir. I'm going to share my screen, and I need to have some people promoted.
I can do that.
Okay, it's Mr. Derek Sheehan and Mr. Pat Hastings.
Uh-oh. Okay, you shared your screen.
I messed you up.
Not quite sure how to get back. Can you unshare for
Yes,
just a
sir.
second? Okay, you good to go.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, this is a continued public hearing from last month for Dynamic Energy Solutions LLC, application for a special exception permit for a 5 megawatt AC power solar project as a public utility in the agricultural and general use zoning district, which would be A2. Very briefly, Mr. Pat Hastings with Dynamic Energy Solutions LLC has made an application for a 5-megawatt AC solar project along North Lee Highway near the village of Fairfield. The property is owned by James G. Jr. and Thomas J. Alexander and is located in the agricultural and general use A2 zoning district, further identified as tax map number 38-10-A. Per section 603.03-9 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations, public utilities are a use by special exception. Excuse me. The proposed 5-megawatt solar site is on approximately 30 acres of the Alexander farm. I believe it's a 40-acre lease site. There's an existing dairy operation on the farm. The portion of the proposed solar project has been utilized as a crop field. The Alexander family owns the property to the south and directly across the street from, or across the Interstate 8164 of the proposed solar project. Again, this is a continued public hearing. At the May 24th, 2021, the Board of Supervisors opened the public hearing. The public hearing was continued until tonight's June 28th, 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting. Being a continued public hearing, the advertising in the newspaper went back in as a continued public hearing, certified mail to all the direct land adjoiners, and posting of the property as we made sure the posted was still there. The purpose of the continued hearing, public hearing, was to allow for additional time to consider the special exception application. Draft conditions. At the May 12th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the special exception application with conditions. These are the draft conditions as they currently associate with the application. Number one, the development of the property, tax map 38-10-A, for which the application is being made, shall be in substantial accordance with the development plan prepared by Dynamic Energy with revision dates of September 25th, 2020, April 7th, 2021, and May 20th, 2021. Number two, the maximum height of the tilt for the solar array shall be 15 feet. Number three, landscaping shall be maintained in healthy condition for the life of the project. Number four, acceptance of a decommissioning agreement incorporating the decommissioning plan dated May 12th, 2021, subject to a Virginia licensed engineer certification of the decommissioning cost as outlined in Virginia, or Code of Virginia, section 15.2-2241.2. Number five, the implementation of the project by December 31st, 2023, and project completion by June 30th, 2024. The approval, number six, approval contingent on the Tourism Corridor Overlay Board approval, VDOT, and erosion sediment control management approvals. Condition number four has been modified to incorporate the requirement of Virginia code section and referencing the licensed engineered certification, and condition number five have been added to the draft conditions. At the last meeting, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the time frame for the project was discussed. Staff has worked directly with the applicant to detail the implementation of the project and the project completion date. Staff feels like it would be beneficial to include this time frame associated with the project. At this time, I'd like to turn this portion over, this portion of the meeting over to Mr. Pat Hastings and Mr. Sheehan with Dynamic Energy Solutions LLC to review the special exception application. With that, Mr. Sheehan, Mr. Hastings, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I do have the landscaping information on my end if we need it, but I'm sure y'all do as well. With that, I'll turn it over to y'all.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the board for having us this evening on this continued year. I think two things that we wanted to address that were brought up during the last hearing. One was the issue around the taxes, which I've been in contact with Mr. David Weitzel as well as Mr. Spencer around these matters. From our understanding, and I believe this has been communicated to the Board of Supervisors as well, is that the intent is to remove, or once the project is in or has begun construction, that the agricultural land use tax exemption would be removed, and there would be It would then go to commercial use or however deemed appropriate by the board. That rollback tax would be a 5-year rollback tax plus a 10% interest. And I believe that number that we have comes out to $9,993.65. And then additionally, or the property then would go to, I guess, fair market value. And then there is an anticipated reassessment come January 1st, 2023, that I believe Mr. Suter is overseeing. So that was our understanding of the tax implementation. And then one other note that I believe was brought up by the Board of Supervisors during the last hearing was the benefit to the residents of Rockbridge County in having the opportunity to sign up, participate in this community solar project. And so what we had proposed was, so as you may know from the last year, projects are first come, first serve. So, and they are available to any resident or commercial or municipal electricity user in Dominion's service territory. So it's a pretty large territory. What we have, and also too, I mean, the start date for this program right now is scheduled for July 1st, 2023 for subscribers to begin signing up. So there is plenty of time ahead of when this program is live for informational or educational material to be presented to the county. So I think what we are willing, or what we can do at the moment, is provide information and where to go for county, to the county to disperse to residents, or we could help with that, I suppose, in some way, but to get that educational information out to the residents, and then also provide links of where they could go online to sign up for either this project or one of the other projects will be a state participating in this program. And I believe Mr. Suter had sent an email over to the board relaying that information, but I just wanted to reiterate it here tonight.
Can I jump in and ask a question right here?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
At the last meeting, you had said that you were already in discussions with universities about this project. Is that not correct?
We did have one university reach out, and they were curious. I mean, we have a couple other projects in adjacent counties, so it could be this project or, one in Augusta or one in Rockland. So they had just found out and they had inquired about it.
Well, I just want to make sure that our citizens, like you said, have a place to find out about this, to register for this, to get in line, to get in the queue. And from the last discussion, it seemed to me that there were other people, other entities, universities, businesses that were already in a queue that has not been made available to our citizens. And that I want to be very clear about how that works and how our citizens can, make this can be made available to them.
Yeah, of course. And just to respond, so yeah, somebody from a university did reach out just to inquire about the program. I suppose they may have heard about one of our projects in local press or local publication. That being said, we currently do not have any sort of queue or wait list or preferential treatment given to any sort of business or entity or institution or residential subscriber. It's definitely way too early in the process for that right now. We typically with community solar projects, you don't really start subscribing them until maybe closer to a year to 6 months out from the project actually breaking ground, which, at this point, might not, most likely won't be till 2023. So there's plenty of time there. And then additionally, the projects.
Well, so that you mean in 2022, you would be opening this for subscribers.
Well, not exactly. So the regulation now says that and that's the other thing is we don't have all the answers. So that's another kind of issue is Dominion was supposed to release a kind of a second round of rules for project submission on June 1st. They now have put it to August 1st. And then there was another entity that asked to get them sooner. So it might be sometime in July when we're expecting them, but there still are some rules that have to be sorted out on the project submission side for us. But then also that doesn't really have to do with the subscribers. Subscribers will not be able to enroll as per the regulation until Dominion puts the infrastructure in place to allow developers or subscriber organizations to start submitting subscribers, which right now it reads the earlier of, basically whenever Dominion implements that infrastructure, if you will, or July 1st, 2023. So that's Dominion's like hard deadline to be able to allow subscribers to enroll in the program.
So you can't give any assurances, not only about this project, or that our citizens can get in line for any of the projects in Virginia. That there are no such assurances.
Well,
is
we
what
have
I'm
no
hearing.
No, well, we have no control over any of the other projects in the program, obviously, but for this project in particular, I'm sorry, I thought you meant maybe statewide, because we're only there will be up to 30 to 40 projects participating in this program statewide, and this is one of those. So with some of the uncertainty right now around when Dominion will actually allow us to start submitting subscribers, I think what we are willing to do is provide information, educational information about the program, so the residents can learn about what it is, and then also give them as these links, or if Dominion has a website where they can go and get in line, sign up, we'll provide that as soon as we have it. So I think that's today, kind of what we feel we can provide.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a couple for Mr. Slavin and for Ms. Huffman. Ms. Huffman, you gave us a paper document that said there was a couple changes or new items, as I understood it, that Mr. Slavin would explain.
Right. He, in his presentation, I think he mentioned a condition number 4 was modified slightly to make that decommission plan subject to a Virginia licensed engineer's certification of the costs as outlined in the applicable code section. And then condition number 5 was added. Implementation of the project by December 31st, 2023, and project completed by June 30, 2024.
I'm sorry, I didn't pick up on the changes. I heard those, but I didn't know what was changed. As we learn more about these types of projects, the decommissioning plan is certainly part of them. Is what I'm reading here in the document, it says decommissioning shall occur at the end of the lifespan and shall be the full responsibility of the solar facility owner. That, seems pretty final to say that just all the financial responsibilities and all of that is the solar facility owner, which is Dynamic Energy Solutions. Is that correct? That's correct. I'm not the lawyer, just want to make sure that that's what that language means. Thank
It does, and the decommissioning agreement provides that they would provide a performance bond to guarantee that decommissioning. And that's authorized by statute.
Any other questions? All right, well, we will. Has anyone signed up to speak tonight on this? We're continuing. All right, so
No one online either.
no one online either. So we will close the public comment. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, at this time, if anyone wants to, I'll entertain a motion. And it would include the adoption of the revised ordinance with the modifications presented tonight. Oh,
My apologies. We did have a chat on the, I checked under the attendees.
Volume, I can't hear. Is that Jay speaking? Could he speak into the mic for me, please?
It's not, and I do.
My apologies. I don't know what we do with this one. It's been closed, but I assume it would be, I don't know.
I think you go back to the regular agenda.
We can go back.
There's no public hearing on
Right.
cigarette tax, so.
Oh, I'm
complete-
sorry.
Complete this item and then go
Forget it.
back to
I
that.
read straight through the cigarette tax. Never mind. My fault.
okay, so we're back to dynamic.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, while I'm not sure I necessarily agree with everything in this proposal, I feel like as a county, we need to take a step forward in better understanding solar projects and how they impact our communities, and whether we need ordinances or restrictions or whatnot in place as this field seems to grow and seems to be a development that we're going to be faced with for the next several years. Having said all that, I firmly believe in landowners' right to do what they feel that they should be able to do on their land. So, to be fair to the landowner, I'll make a motion to approve that percent.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say I agree with Mr. McDaniel. This Zoom technology, I'll just say, is a tough way to do business. Dynamic Energy Solutions to us is something on a piece of paper and some guys in Pennsylvania. It's hard, to feel like you have all the information and you know what you're doing. So that's just an aside of how we conduct future ones also. If there's, I don't know, were they ever able to make it to the planning commissions, or has this been Zoom the whole time? Yeah. Some of that was during odd times, I suppose. Anyway, just another thought.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes,
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The next is the application for rezoning from residential to general R1 district to the agricultural and general uses A2 district. Mr. Slater.
The landowner, this Paige Gantz, is in attendance with us. If you bear with me, I'm going to share my screen one more time. In this case, I do not have a pre-prepared PowerPoint presentation, but I would like to utilize the GIS. All right. Miss Paige Gantz and Alexander Tallman, 62 Brushwood Place, Lexington, Virginia, 24450, has made an application from a rezoning for a rezoning from the general residential R1 zoning district to the general agricultural A2 zoning district. Property in consideration for the rezoning consists of 24.972 acres per tax records and is on the north side of Enfield Road, State Route 642, approximately 1 mile from the intersection of Enfield Road and Kendall Drive. Kendall Drive is private road. The 24.972 acres is comprised of tax map numbers 74-A-29B, 74-22-2, and 74-22-3. And if I could just take a moment to get everyone oriented, this is, in fact, I'm gonna put my hand screen there. The property is under consideration is in the yellow. That represents the residential zoning district. The clear area that you can see is actually the agricultural zoning district. And then the dark green over here across the road on the south side of the road is the conservation zoning district. Per the original zoning maps for the county, the Tallman Grants property and all of the property east towards the city of Lexington, that would be in between Enfield Road and Borden Road, was located in the general residential zoning district, R1 zoning. Between the original 1972 zoning maps and 1984 revisions, a large portion of this land area was downzoned from the R1 zoning district to the A2 zoning district. However, as shown on the existing map, as shown here on the screen, several tracts remained in the R1 zoning district. The current use of the property is woodlands with 2 accessory structures. The Grants Tallman house parcel, which is identified as 60-A-90, which is located here, will remain in the R1 zoning district, as well as Smith Tracts, which is a total of 3.8 acres, will also retain in the R1 zoning district. The surrounding property is primarily woodland. The property to the rear is mixed woods and farmland. The property directly across the road is known as the Brushy Hills Tracts, and that's approximately 515 acres that is owned by the city of Lexington. There's no public water or public sewer in this area. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on June 9th, 2021, and has recommended approval of the rezoning application. With that, I'd like to turn over this portion of the presentation to Ms. Paige Gantz to review the details of the application, further details of the application, and answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
Could we, volume is,
If you pull the microphone closer to you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
yes, much better. Thank you.
Leslie, she had nothing to add, but is willing to take questions. So does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. Stan.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing. Is anyone signed up to address the board? Anyone electronically, Mr. Suda? Getting worse. Hey, Chris, can you unshare? Nope. Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Any discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second,
And a second. All right. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Today,
Yes.
McDaniel? Chair votes yes. Is approved.
Thank you.
And that's the end of our public hearings. So we will,
Dr. Lyons, just wondering while you figured out where we are back there. One thing I forgot to mention back on the not necessarily dynamic energy, but to solar facility plannings is I believe the planning commission is researching and looking into getting some more finite terminology on that, on the potential sites and how they might be accomplished. Looks like Slayton could help me.
Mr. Slayton, you can-
Yes, no, so based on the letter from the Farm Bureau, it's obviously propelled a lot of conversations with the planning commission, board level, that type of thing. And so we are working on for the last month, Mr. Musso has done a significant amount of research, and Ms. Huffman and Mr. Suter all have done a significant amount of research on what other localities are doing. I've said at the planning commission, I'll say it here, that I'm a firm believer that we will still utilize the special exception process, but the ordinance will set out certain goals of upfront information. So with that, in a way, truthfully, it will somewhat streamline some processes. Obviously, I think the special exception process with this particular project was really a testimony of the special exception process, meaning that it took 3 months. We allow for 3 months at the planning commission to develop a recommendation to go to the board of supervisors. So I feel confident that it will still be a use by special exception, and we will still look at the same issues that we looked at this particular one, and we looked at the Busselberg. They will just be further developed in an ordinance. And so that's I really hope to have an ordinance to the board level, next 2 or 3 months, something like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, bring that up, but
That's
thought it
okay.
was good
That's
information.
important to know. We will move back and continue our discussion on the county decals.
So just to let you know about my mess up there earlier, the comment that was someone wanted to make was on the cigarette tax. Of course, the board has had public comment on that, so you could certainly do it again if you wanted to, but you have had comment on that.
Right.
So if you hear nothing else, I can go ahead with the county decal discussion.
Mr. McDaniel, do you have something you want to
I was just going to say if we wanted to circle back and get the comment, but
Well, it wasn't a public comment, it was board discussion, so I think we will move on with the discussion of the county decal.
Okay. So as you know, the board's discussed action on county decals many times in the past. The last discussion was in March of this year. At that time, no action was taken. Chairman Lyons did ask that staff put this discussion back onto the agenda at the start of the new fiscal year to provide additional time to consider options earlier in the annual fiscal process. And that this item is fairly fresh on folks' minds, and in respect for your time. I didn't plan to go through a lot of the detail and the history unless asked to expand on it. Summary of the information is included in your board report. Did make some tweaks to update some information in that board report. That was, of course, from conglomeration of prior reports. We did provide the 2 ordinance examples that Ms. Huffman has drafted in the past. One is to go to a permanent decal, and the other one is the elimination of a decal and replacement with some sort of identifier for county residents to use solid waste collection centers and other county facilities. So with that, entertain any questions that you might have or any direction that the board might want to have on this matter. If you have something to add.
Okay, well, at least now we know we can't use the excuse we don't have enough time to do it, and that we've already started on the budget. If it's the will of the board to eliminate the county decal, then we need to start working on it right now because it does have a budget impact. Personally, as long as we find a way to make up for the lost revenues that are generated by the decals, I'm fine with its elimination. But I'm not good with eliminating it if we don't have a replacement for the lost revenues.
Mr. Chairman, there's two ways of looking at that. One is replacing revenues, one's cutting expenditures. So there's more than one way to tackle that.
Or the combination, right?
So I'm not sure that you necessarily have to replace all the revenues.
Well, you either have to replace them. We're saying, I think the same thing. You either replace them with equal revenues or you replace them with revenues and cuts that equal the total amount. So.
I mean, I know staff has presented a lot of information, but, you know, and I appreciate you bringing it back to the agenda. You know, I think over the next month or two or three that, you know, we should come up with a plan, you know, and discuss all options and figure out how to move forward rather than February or March trying to tackle it with budget and everything else.
I agree. I think, you know, in 2 or 3 months, we ought to be able to come up with a plan.
I'll be glad to help work on that.
There you go. We got a volunteer.
And I apologize, you all probably recall, I believe was the Finance Committee working on that in the past?
Well, since it had been sort of designated as this has progressed through, it's become, you know, a fiscal issue. So yes. So as a member of that, I mean, I'm involved in that committee. It might be a good repository for.
I think since it has a budget impact, it ought to go to the Finance Committee. Any other comments about decals? Hearing none, let's move on to appointments. We have several. We'll start with the Planning Commission. Melissa Hennis, her term expires on July the 13th. She's from my district. She's done a very good job. And is willing to serve again, and we have no other applications.
Since you can't make the motion, Mr. Lyons, I would.
Thank you.
To appoint Ms. Hennis.
So we have a motion to appoint. Reappoint Ms. Hennis. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All right. Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Ayers.
Aye.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel. And the chair votes yes. Jason Harris. His term expires on July the 8th. And he's willing to serve again. And I believe do we have any other applicants?
South River representative, not.
I believe right.
Well, okay. We not required, but we certainly, that's been a rule of thumb. Anyway, I would move we approve.
So a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And we have a second. All right, Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
McDaniel. And the chair votes yes. Board of Zoning Appeals, Lynn Wells, term expires the end of July. He's willing to serve again. We have no other applicants.
I move we approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second? And a second? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel? Yeah. Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Rockbridge Regional Communications Center Management Board. Mr. Cochran, his term expires on June 30, and he's willing to serve again. And we have no other applicants.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. And a second. Mr. McDaniel? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Rockbridge Regional Communications Center Management Board, the 911 Board. Mr. Taylor, term expires at the end of the month, and he's willing to serve again. And we have no other applicants.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Mr. McDaniel?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day? Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
And the-
Yes.
Yes. And the chair votes yes.
He's going to vote for me too.
Love your positivity, Bob.
Mr. Suter, or Mr. Chairman, if I might, just to be clear, is Mr. Cochran the alternate?
No, he is the member.
He is, okay.
He is the member.
All right.
Mr. Taylor's the alternate.
Mr. Okay,
And they've both been very
involved.
they've been at the meetings and involved. Yes.
Okay, good. They just didn't clarify here that one was an alternate, but I thought I remembered that.
The EDA, Mr. Ferris, the unexpired term needs to be filled. Don't believe we have anyone yet.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple names I was running down. I've got denied from the first one because of the onerous process that it takes to participate. And I think Mr. McDaniel may have somebody he's looking at. So if I would
Well, I
ask
was going to say,
if we
we'll
could
just
delay
put
that
that
one.
off and give you guys time to.
Is there a particular district? For Mr. Ferris? Well,
I don't think it has to be by district. So,
We try to keep it, but it's not critical. If we don't have a candidate, then
all right, RARO Board. I have Ms. Ayers, who's willing to continue serving,
Yes.
and we have no other applicants.
so move.
We have a second.
Second.
And Mr.
I'll
Lewis.
second it.
Aye.
Thanks for your vote.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel. Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Oh, Bob's voting. Can we go back to the decals while he's voting? Yes.
Good one, Jack.
We have Mr. Cartwright, who's willing to serve, and we have no other applicants.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel, and chair votes yes. We have Mr. Henney, who's willing to serve.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel, and the chair votes yes.
I think it's important to know RAR is going through their
Right.
executive director search also. So
We went
it's
through
good
that.
to have some continuity. Oh, last meeting when I wasn't here.
The library board, we still need to go out and try to find someone. I know people are looking, so we will push that off.
Thank you.
To our next. That takes care of all the appointments. We have the addition to the agenda, a report from Ms. Huffman.
Yes, sir. I'll preface this by saying if you'd like to convene in closed session for more detailed legal advice, you do have the proposed motion in front of you if you're interested. That's entirely up to the board. But for now, I will cover briefly what the request is. The Purdue Pharma bankruptcy case has been pending for some time, and there's been an effort to negotiate a settlement. A settlement plan has been proposed. I believe we're on the 5th amended plan, maybe. In any event, it's the bankruptcy judge has determined that the deadline for voting to approve or reject this plan is July 14th by 10 a.m. or by 4 p.m., but we have to get word out by 10 a.m. So given that this is the last meeting of the board before that time, I have not, and I didn't get the information until late on Friday, so I wasn't able to get it on your agenda, but felt that you needed to give some consideration to this before that voting deadline. The settlement plan currently outside counsel is not in a position to make a recommendation. It is subject to the results of a mediation session scheduled for June 30th and July 1st. And evaluation of whether or not the Sackler family, who own Purdue Pharma and its affiliates, will be making additional contributions to the bankruptcy estate. So the request is therefore to give me or someone authority to direct the vote or reject or approve the settlement plan once that mediation is completed and we get a recommendation from council with accurate updates of information. So unless you have questions, you have a sample motion in front of you.
Question?
I don't have any. I think Ms. Huffman has done a good job of keeping us up to date as the case has progressed, and this is the latest turn, and I would consider her the best person to make the decision when that comes. So I would make a motion to appoint and authorize Ms. Huffman, the county attorney, to determine on our behalf whether to approve or reject the settlement plan in the Purdue Pharma and affiliates bankruptcy, and to direct the opioid litigation attorney team to cast the vote for the county of Rockbridge accordingly.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second. And we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. I believe that takes us to board comments. Are there any comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second
I'll second.
and a second. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel. Chair votes yes, and we stand adjourned. Thank you.